Guys, it's Coach Gaglione here from GaglioneStrength.com. We got another strong lady on the line. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. So thank you so much for coming on. For those of you guys that don't know you, can you just introduce yourself quick and then tell us a little about what you got going on?
Sure. So my name is Eva. I compete in the 63 kilo weight class in the USAPL, and we just had actually nationals in Atlanta, Georgia. So I finished that up, and now I am in the off season, which it happens to be my favorite season. You get to increase your body weight, increase your calories, increase your training intensity. Your volume goes up. Everything just kind of explodes, and it's the most fun.
Very cool. So I want to kind of rewind a little bit and talk about like kind of how you actually got started into lifting in the first place before you kind of even started competing. Like, how did you actually get started with strength training?
Sure. So I actually played soccer all through high school. I played Premier, and then I eventually moved to the collegiate level. So I played for my college, which was college. I mean, D3 school, pretty talented people on the team, but it wasn't like my entire life. I happened to be athletic just kind of growing up. I loved playing sports, and then I sustained 2 ACL tears, first in my right knee, then in my left knee. So Ryan Gleason, who is now my coach, kind of took me under his wing and helped me with the rehabilitation process for my ACL surgeries and the rehab that goes along with that. And then he signed me up for a meet and didn't tell me. And then come like a couple weeks beforehand, he just kind of laid it on me that I'm doing a meet. And I haven't looked back since.
Cool. So I know what did you actually take in the nationals this year?
What did I what? I'm sorry.
What place did you take?
Oh, I was fourth.
Okay, so yeah, real competitive field. Consistently, in like the top in the country for your weight class for USAPL. Was there like a defining moment where you're like, I don't want to just kind of like compete like recreationally, but I want to kind of be a little more competitive and take this a little more serious?
Yeah, I mean, I think competitiveness is just in my nature in general. I've never been someone who just does something to do it. I tend to kind of go 100% into everything that I do. So I think after my first meet that I ever did, which was actually up in Massachusetts with Mike and Zach, so I was pretty much hooked from the beginning, and then seeing and meeting a bunch of really kick-ass, strong women, such as Kim Walford, who is like now my big sister, but at the time was literally my idol.
Sure.
And Jen Thompson, meeting them and kind of just interacting with them, as well as seeing other competitors in my weight class, for instance, and in my age group. Victoria Liang, she was at my first ever nationals, and she really did an amazing job at the meet. And seeing kind of, and also hearing their stories, it pushed me into that competitive mindset even further, because it showed me that you can be competitive, yet it doesn't have to overwhelm your life, So that's kind of where I think, after my first nationals, I think was that kind of defining moment of jumping in and really immersing myself in the sport.
Cool. And I know that you do. You have a couple of degrees and stuff. You do like a lot. Your schooling is pretty.
I have just a bachelor's in neuroscience.
Neuroscience. I knew it was something like kind of crazy. So that's so that's cool. So so are you always kind of like you're always kind of like driven with everything? Were you always good in school too and take like your education pretty serious also?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an immigrant, and I emigrated to the U.S. when I was 5, and it was always kind of just instilled in me that education has to be a priority. I wasn't really given an option growing up, and I also hate disappointing people, so it was just in my nature to want to do well so that I can impress myself, impress my teachers, impress my parents, the list goes on. So yes, I definitely tried in school. I was kind of like your typical athlete scholar kind of kid. So yeah, I mean, I would say once I started to get into high school and college, I took it a lot more seriously, and I finally realized things that were interesting to me rather than just being, force-fed information and knowledge. So once I was able to kind of pick up on things that I'm good at and that I like, it made me driven to the next level.
Very cool. and there's nothing wrong with that, being smart and strong. So
Hey, someone's got to do it, right?
totally. So the other thing I wanted to kind of talk about too, I know like I've seen like a lot of pictures like on your social media too.
Yeah.
I'm not sure like exactly, but you do like a little like kind of more get some professional pictures, some kind of like modeling and stuff. So you definitely like a lot of times with women, they may think like with powerlifting, they kind of lose their femininity and stuff, but you obviously still been able to kind of do both. Can you talk about like how you got into that and like how you kind of like balance, being like a tougher kind of athlete, but also having that soft, like feminine side, like
Yeah,
as
for
well?
sure. So I think the key word is I try to show people that you can, I guess, have it all. There is obviously a stigma when it comes to strength sports with the fact that you automatically become masculine and you automatically lose touch with your femininity, that you are unable to have any type of life outside of lifting, and that you must be taking steroids, you must be huge, you must,
Right.
like the list goes on. So it was really important to me to not only represent drug-free powerlifting, but also to kind of promote the fact that you can embrace yourself as a woman and also be involved in strength sports. And I mean, if you actually look at the science behind strength training, a lot of it is extremely beneficial to women. So being able to both educate and also to show visually that, hey, like lifting weights isn't going to kill you or make you gigantic or change or transform your body in some really ridiculous way, that was important to me. At the same time, it wasn't as much of, hey, I can maintain my little tiny figure, as much as it was to show you can pretty much mold yourself into whatever physique you want to, right? So if I wanted to be a 72, 84 kilo, I mean, it might not be feasible for me because I do have a generally smaller frame, but if I really wanted to, would I do it? Absolutely. So it's kind of like embrace any part of whoever you are in any capacity. That's more so my goal than just being like, oh, you can be really sexy and be a lifter. Like, sure, that's important, but and Marissa Inda is a huge proponent of that. She's a mom of two. She works hard to maintain her physique, and she's also wicked strong. And I absolutely respect that. On the other hand, if your only goal is not at all what you look like and only strength training, I respect that too. So I kind of try to make women embrace themselves as a person as a whole rather than just focus on either strength or either intelligence or physique or whatever it may be. Kind of take it a wholesome package. That's kind of my goal.
Yeah, I think staying true to yourself and just like not like having to fit yourself in a box or fit yourself to a way like society wants. I think it's really cool advice, and I think sometimes people are kind of afraid to like maybe break out of their shell and maybe try some of these things because there's a certain, like you said, stigma attached to not just lifting but like any type of like activity, and I think that's really cool.
Right. And I mean, if you go to a commercial gym, I don't train at a commercial gym, but if you've ever stepped foot in one, guarantee I can even walk in there and some guy is going to be like, oh, honey, please step away from the rack. Like someone is going to do that out there. So I can see how women are deterred from it because they're constantly being told no. So by actually being allowed and embraced in an environment where women are welcome, I think that's super important. And the more that it's out in social media, I think the better in this case.
Cool. So one question I always like to ask people is, I know you dealt with some injuries in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever dealt with any adversity, and like if so, like how did you kind of like overcome it?
Yes, I mean, I've had a lot of injuries in my past, and I mean, I'm sure you've read in a bunch of different articles from a bunch of tough guys that unless you're getting injured in powerlifting, you're not doing it right. Actually, powerlifting saved me from injury. That's what I like to tell people. I have had 2 ACL tears. I have a spondy in my, it means my spine is actually fractured on 2 levels. For me, it's L3, L4, which actually caused a ton of issues as far as playing soccer goes, and just even it got to the point where I couldn't walk my dog without pain. And there was a lot of weakness and a lot of muscle imbalances in my body. So my coach was able to recognize those, and through physical therapy and through his help, I think I was strong enough to actually start to focus less. So when you're in pain, you're constantly focused on that pain, right? So I got strong enough where that pain was able to subside, and I was able to fix those imbalances. It took a really long time, but so those were my biggest, I think, kind of hurdles when it comes to being injured. I had 2 ACL tears in my back. But I always say that lifting saved my life because, truthfully, I would not have worked nearly as hard if I didn't have an end goal of competing. And I don't think that I would have healed as well, especially with my back. My erectors have gotten much stronger. My lats, just all of the supporting muscles in my back have been able to sustain that injury and actually keep it in place.
Cool. And then what like advice do you have for maybe someone that's dealing with some injuries, and what are some like first steps that they could take to kind of like help kind of get back on the right track?
Yeah, I mean, I think one mistake that I made that looking back, I wish that I could change is that I tried to rush. I tried to rush, and that was really just not a good idea because I tried to do too much too fast, and I ended up getting re-injured. So I think taking your time is the first priority, making sure that you give yourself adequate rest, adequate nutrition, adequate time to recover, as well as find the right people to help you. So don't be afraid to go to a doctor, for instance, or to get a physical therapist, or to find a coach that is willing to work with your injuries and won't push you beyond the extent that you can work. That was extremely important too. Ryan has this philosophy that he tells to everyone, and it's, if it hurts, you stop. No matter what, you don't work through the pain. Does it make you tough? Does it make you a badass? Does it make you some really cool guy that you're trying to work through something that's extremely painful? Now, it's important to understand the difference between discomfort and pain. Obviously, you can be uncomfortable and still work through something, but if it really hurts, you need to stop. And if I could go back, those are the 2 things I would do: take my time, and make sure that I'm actually like really focused on what I'm doing and not rush it.
Yeah, I think being patient is key, especially when you have an injury. And you always say, like, you know, if you're injured, you can't like really be, you're not going to be making progress. You're kind of like setting yourself up for failure anyway. So if you kind of look more long term, sometimes you kind of leave a little bit in the tank. If you feel something coming on, like stop, cut the session short, or focus on maybe doing other exercises or doing what you can.
Right.
In the long run, you're going to actually have more time under the bar, and you're going to be more successful, like I said, when it's all said and done. So I think that's really, really great advice.
And I mean, you can also screw up your movement pattern if you're, doing something constantly incorrectly.
Yeah,
so right, exactly. Compensation can actually make it worse for you in the end. So. Yeah,
and I know that you've I think I remember like seeing some of you like core stuff and rehab stuff. So. Can you maybe like give some advice? I know some powerlifters, like, I think not to like I think a lot of times the USAPL guys are a little bit sometimes better with this stuff, but sometimes I've seen a lot of powerlifters, they don't really focus on warm up, they don't really focus on injury prevention stuff. What advice do you have for people, like, as far as like with warm ups and just precautions that you take to make sure that you're healthy and feeling good?
With warm ups, I generally tell people to warm up to the extent that they feel they need. I know with powerlifting, warming up is not necessarily encouraged because you do want to have more rigid joints. You want to be tighter. I mean, you can't produce as much power if you're loose, right? So the idea is warm up to the extent that you feel necessary. Now, if you have injuries, I do suggest rehabilitating those, whether that comes before or after your workout. That's up to you. So I think my suggestion would be to listen to your body first and foremost, and do what it tells you to do. For instance, I cannot walk into the gym and just pick up the bar and start squatting. My hips would explode, I think. So I do a significant amount of breathing exercises. I do a significant amount of muscle imbalance and posture fixing. I foam roll. People think that's crazy sometimes, but I foam roll just to get my muscles and the fascia kind of more loose and warm. So if you're in a gym where it's really cold, like our gym is pretty large and it's freezing half the time because it's winter and it's cold.
Sure.
Heating's expensive, So
I know.
So I try to get as warm as possible to still be able to be efficient in my movements. So I look for efficiency, power, and comfort, I suppose.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's great advice, and I think there's nothing wrong with like, is there anything that's going to kind of help promote blood flow, get things kind of moving, get things circulating. Like I said, I think I think some people can overdo the stretching, but I know like a lot of times, especially like more like the old school type mentality, they want to kind of just get under the bar right away. Like usually the answer is kind of somewhere in between. So do what you got to do to get ready, and then kind of get going. So I think that's really good advice.
If you look at it, some of the absolute best strength athletes were once gymnasts. Who is more flexible than a gymnast? You know, like look at Maddie. She's a weightlifter. She was a cheerleader, a gymnast, very good. Chelsea Savitt was a gymnast, can still complete it. Leanna Cart was a gymnast. I mean, I could like rattle off these people.
There's definitely a lot. I think we sometimes maybe downplay the flexibility and the mobility stuff, but it definitely has its place and definitely kind of keeps you healthy. And if you're not moving right, that's going to kind of lead to more injuries. So
right, and I mean, this is the sport of longevity. You know, you don't want to be in it for 1-2 years and then you're out of the game just because you didn't take care of yourself properly.
Very cool. So you've done USAPL Nationals, you've done the Arnold, you've done some high level meets.
Mm-hmm.
What is some advice for people that maybe are just getting into the sport and maybe they're looking to do some higher level competitions? What's like some advice you can kind of give them, on like their road from going from like just like a local lifter to wanting to become like more like on the national kind of stage?
Okay, so I would say don't make a national or a high level meet your first priority. Focus on your personal goals first. Then, as if you're progressing to the point where your numbers are kind of there or surpassing them, then maybe look into it. But just to give you an example, I remember Heather, she just won the 47 class. She competed super well at Worlds. She contacted me when she just started lifting and was like, hey, you have some advice. Like, I remember it to this day. And now she is one of the most successful lifters.
Yeah, she crushed it.
Absolutely. Over 500 looks like she's nuts. She's so strong. So her eyes might have been on that prize, and but she took the necessary steps that she needed. So I suggest first focusing on personal goals. Don't look at what other people are doing. And we're all at fault. I do that too. I'm like, oh, but so-and-so did this, 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 and this. Like, I need to be able to do that. No, you might not be ready yet, so focus on those. Focus on the bodybuilding movements, and I've always said this, don't neglect them, because the more muscle that you can build, the more force you can produce, the more power you can produce. So if you don't have the muscle, I don't know how you're going to generate the amount of strength that you need to be successful. So don't neglect those movements. And then I guess I would suggest to make sure that your mental strength is there, because those meets are high pressure.
Yes.
There's a lot of people watching you. You're probably going to have to travel, which sucks for anyone who has done it before. It's not fun, just because it's a quick turnaround time. Your water fluctuation, your weight might be different, so you have to keep all of those variables in mind before you just jump right into a meet like that. I suggest start small and build your way up.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, especially kind of focusing on the personal growth first, because I think it's very easy, especially in the age of social media, to kind of like get sidetracked with what everyone else is doing. And at the end of the day, you really can only control like what you do. So just focusing on yourself, focus on your personal progress, and then when you get to actually a point where, oh, well, now my numbers are kind of starting to get a little more competitive, then you can kind of start to worry about that stuff a little bit more. And obviously, like, on game day, when it comes down time to deadlifts and you kind of see where you fall with everyone, then you can kind of make some like game time decisions, like based on like, is this going to place me, third versus fifth or whatever, and then you got to just go for it at that point.
Yep.
Very cool. Well, and then the next question, so some people might not even be competing yet. So maybe we have women listeners listening in or watching that maybe are on the fence of they're afraid to start. Maybe they're not sure like how to get started. They're not really sure like what the next step is or if powerlifting is for them. What advice can you give to someone that's kind of like on the fence or not really sure like what the first step is to getting started?
I get this question a lot, and I think it's mostly based on if you want to do something and there's literally no one but you stopping you from doing it, why wouldn't you do it? So it's like, to me, it's almost like Just jump in, sign yourself up for a meet, find a coach, start to train, do the meet. Like, no matter what your numbers are, I know there's some people who have the philosophy of, like, if you can't achieve A, B, and C, don't compete.
Yep.
There's no better teacher than experience. I know that from my own personal experiences. My first meet ever, I squatted 187, benched like 110 or something like that, and I think I pulled like, I don't know, 264. I don't know, something not like overwhelming compared to what I do now.
Sure.
So, but I didn't know if that was good or bad. I just kind of went into it and I did it. Ryan signed me up. I was there. I showed up and I did what I had to do. So I think being able to just commit to something and sticking through with that goal, you'll find out pretty quickly whether or not you like it, right? So if you're going into the gym every day and you're like, oh God, this is miserable, like I hate this, I don't want to be doing this, then maybe it's just not the right hobby for you, right? Maybe you're more into physique, or maybe you're more into just being a regular gym goer, whatever it might be. Maybe you want to pick up like volleyball, I don't know. But if you're in there every day and you're striving for that number, if you're hitting every rep, you're trying to perfect everything, you're recording your videos not only for social media, but because you actually want to look at your form and want to improve it, which, you know, predominantly that's what we do.
Sure.
Yes, we show some of our videos, but we also record ourselves for analysis purposes. Then, you know, I say just jump right in. I would jump in head first, contact people. I know plenty of us on social media respond to a ton of our inquiries. Send things to our email. That's why we put it out there. If you're going to DM me, I probably won't see it. But if you email me, I will likely get to it. So, you know, just kind of find the right outlet and the right way to reach people, and they'll be more than happy to talk to you and help you, walk you through it.
I think that's really good advice. Just don't be afraid to reach out for help, whether it's another athlete or a coach or someone in your area. One thing I can really say about the powerlifting community is that for the majority of the people are super friendly and they're like willing to help. So yeah, I think that's really great advice. So don't be afraid to ask for help. So, well, thank you so much for coming on tonight. We'll close out the recording a little bit, but you can stay on so I can thank you after. If this interview helped you, before we close out. Where can people find more about you, and if they want to follow what you're doing or check out what you got going on?
Okay, so you can go on. I'm mostly on Instagram. It's at ejans, EJANSS. I also have a YouTube channel, Ejans Powerlifting and Fitness, but I've been kind of like slacking on my videos just because of work and school. Sometimes you have to prioritize some things. And then you can go on my coach's page at Gleason Performance, and also Trifecta, Juggernaut, and RP.
all the sponsors. they're all good
well,
stuff.
They all support me, so I have to support them. They've all great. Killed themselves for me. So
for those that aren't aware, so you guys are in Connecticut.
Yeah.
So definitely check, if you guys are in Connecticut, definitely check out Ryan's gym.
Yeah.
They got a lot of great lifters in there, and it's just a great environment if you're looking to get into powerlifting.
And if you're a strongman, we also have a ton of new strongman stuff. So
there you go. So you could do some strongman too. Very, very cool. So, well, definitely check those links out. Definitely give her a follow. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And if this interview helped you, please share it. Please give us a 5-star review. Helps other people find us, and because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help people out, spread the message of strength. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.